Now,
But
the one thing I will say is, and this is something that I think that Barca is going to have to figure a way to deal with. Um, I think that even though I'm happy with all the signings we have, I think it could create an environment, especially with all the young players that we have, of possibly too much competition, especially in the front three. Lewandowski
all right,
is
all right, all
going.
right. So I'm glad you brought this up. So let's talk about, the starting lineup from yesterday and also, with all the new, so now the team is set, the transfer window is closed. So go ahead.
So Lewandowski is Lewandowski. He's a mature guy. He's an old head. He knows what he's doing. He knows his role. So I don't see him being a problem really at all, unless he gets frustrated by these guys on the wings. So I think that there were quite a few plays where there were much better plays to be had, but players wanted to take it on themselves. And they were I saw a lot of selfish, um, opportunistic tendencies in some of these players, especially with Dembele. I think Dembele, as great as he is, sometimes it's great, but there was two breakaway chances that Dembele had where he could have easily laid the ball up to Lewandowski for an easy goal, but he tries to take on the defense on his own. One time he lost the ball, the other time he actually got the shot off, but it wasn't a great shot. And even after he passed the defender, he could have still laid it off to Lewandowski, who was in great position. Lewandowski actually sprinted from their Barca's defensive half all the way down with Dembele, and then Dembele just skies the shot. So I think that that's something that Barca's going to really have to figure out. De Jong had another one where something that's weird about De Jong. I don't know how he does it. He's not really a flashy player, but he kind of just goes by people. Like I
It's
don't,
he's good at the fundamentals and
but he
first
just kind of
touch.
like
It's the first
goes, yeah,
it's in the first touch. It's in the
yeah,
first
sure, but
touch.
like he just kind of goes by players. I'm just like, huh? But anyway, um, he had one. Um, Rafinha does it to a lesser extent, but yeah, I think that that could end up being a problem, especially with all the competition up front. You have Rafinha, you have Dembele, you have Ansu Fati, you have Ferran Torres. So it's a lot of competition on the wings, two for each position, and you can switch them on the wings, whatever. So it's really four players competing for two spots.
Yeah.
So I think that probably has an impact on how they're going to end up playing the game, and I thought that was apparent on Saturday.
So with Barcelona right now, the transfer is closed. So Marcos Alonso and Bellerin are in. Aubameyang and Dest are out, and Frankie De Jong is staying at the end of everything. Is there anything else that I missed over the last like week of the transfer window? I think that was pretty much it.
Those are the big. That was the big news. Oh, and Depay staying as well,
And the pie is staying. Right. So do you have
who's a fifth player for two
right,
spots.
right. So do you have like based on the signings and the performances so far, a starting 11 that you like? I'm seeing it hard for like Fati to get onto this team, honestly.
I don't think so. Because Fati is still a game changer. He's still young. The kid is 18 or 19, and it's a different situation than Madrid, where Madrid doesn't have that much depth in terms of certain positions where these young players play. Like you said, Rodrigo, there's no real competition besides Valverde, but you eventually want Valverde to be in the middle. Same with what's it called, Kamavinga, who yeah he's fighting for a spot in the middle as well, but eventually he will be there because Modric and Cruz are getting old and they're not always going to be the starters. So I do think that it is going to be a fierce competition for um, players like Fati. I think Torres is going to have a much harder time than Fati is breaking into the squad.
Fati is probably the next man up,
Yeah, that's my
outside of the
point.
starting
And
lineup.
that's the other thing is that Fati will sub in if Lewandowski ever does come out, and I think he has like once this season. Fati goes in. So, and Xavi has also said that he thinks that he can play Fati as a number 9 here and there. He says that he thinks that he can find a spot for him there, and I think that's not a bad idea to mold a kid into being able to play every position in your attack.
And he
So he's
clearly
already a
has
winger. He's
he
already a
clearly
winger. He
has
clearly has the
yeah.
talent.
Yeah, and he has an
And
eye for goal. He has an
he
eye
has an
for
eye for
goal.
goal. And in the second game against Valladolid, when Barca started off slow, shaky, when he came onto the field, he's the one who changed the game. And I think right now we're not seeing Xavi's full trust in Ansu Fati, because he even made a statement where he's saying, he's a young kid, he's going through a long healing process. We don't want to force him into playing even 60, 70 minutes too quickly. So we're starting him on the sub, seeing how it goes. And I think that's smart, especially with all these new players you have. Obviously, at some point, you're going to have to deal with a 100% fit, fully healthy Ansu Fati who's raring to go play for 90 minutes. But I think for now, it's not bad. He just got off that botched surgery, which should have been a 6-month absence. It ended up being a year and a half. So, when that something like that happens, you really, really want to take care of these kids, especially when they're younger. Because if you're starting to get injury prone when you're 19, that's not a good look. So I think in terms of competition up top, I think that the two starters are probably Rafinha, Dembele. After that, it's probably Fati, Torres, and then Depay. And honestly, I think Depay could pass Torres if he puts in the work, because when Torres comes on the field, he's not bad, but he's not great either.
I see Depay more as a sub, as a backup for Lewandowski than on the wing.
Yeah, you're probably right.
That's how I see it.
Oh, apparently, and who knows, but maybe this will prove me wrong. But apparently, Xavi does see Torres as a big part of the future plans. Apparently, Arsenal.
In the same way that Ancelotti sees Asensio as a big part of the future plans.
No, because apparently Arsenal offered about 35, 40 mil for Torres.
Oh, damn. I didn't know that.
And Xavi said no. He said,
Oh,
no, I
damn.
want him to stay at the club.
Damn.
I just read an article on that today.
Especially when Barca needed the money too.
And that's the other thing. When Barca needed the money, he said, no, I'm not selling him.
Damn, that's crazy. All right, what about that midfield? Yesterday you started with Pedri, Busquets, and Gavi. I personally think De Jong will slide into that starting midfield, but I think that's the starting midfield. Other than that,
yeah.
I mean, I think Kessié will have a role this year as well. I don't think he'll be a starter, but he'll have his role, especially like in tough games where you need some muscle in the middle. But yeah. I think the starting midfield is Pedri, De Jong, and Gavi.
I think we're going to see both De Jong and Kessie starting over the next 2-week stretch. We have 4 games in 2 weeks. So
true.
Or is it 5? I think it's 5, right?
The next, until the World Cup, it's like 3 games a week.
Yeah,
until the World Cup.
2.5. I guess you could say 2.5, depending on if you whatever. But the point is, 3 games a week. So you're going to see them starting at some point. I'm sure Kessie will start against Victoria Pleasant. I mean, we'll see, but I don't know. And what I think is interesting about De Jong, I thought he would take up more of the holding midfield role, but it seems like he's taking more of one of the center mid roles in that lineup. When he goes in, he's subbing in for Gavi or Pedri. He's not subbing in for Busquets.
Well, that's what I was going to say. If you're subbing out Busquets, then I think De Jong would be forced more into the CDM. If you have Busquets on the field at the same time. But that's the thing.
When Busquets comes out, it's Kessie going in. It's not De Jong. At least so far. We'll see. And what I do see, which is interesting, and I don't know if he's just trying to, run up the stats so that he can make more of a name for himself or force himself into the lineup or not. But when De Jong is on the field, he's high up. There are times where he looks like the striker. He goes very high up the field, which isn't something that he used to do. He used to be more kind of box to box, also holding the middle. He's always been an attacking threat, but I see him kind of staying there now. And I don't know if that's good or not. He makes a lot of plays there and he creates well and he's a threat on goal. But, I don't know. I don't think he's playing poorly. I think every time he comes onto the field, he does well. He plays well. He gets past players. He makes good passes. He plays smart. He threatens the goal. So we'll see. I don't know. I'm curious to see exactly how that midfield shapes up as the season goes along.
Yep. And lastly,
But for
on
now, I do think for sure Gavi, Pedri are the starters, and then we'll see who ends up sliding into that CDM role as the season goes along. Because as the season goes along, you're not going to be able to be playing Busquets 60, 70, 80, 90 minutes a game.
Yeah, that's true. And lastly, touching on the defense, I know you've always been harping on the fullback situation at Barca. So you brought in Marcos Alonso and you brought in Bellerin. Does that satisfy your concern? And also, now that you have Bellerin as the right back, you're not going to maybe be able to play Koundé out there as much. So now you have like serious competition for the center back as well. So what are you thinking? I think that Alonso will become the starter on the left back. I think probably Bellerin will also become the starter on the right back. And then I think Araujo is undisputed starter in the middle. And then it's going to be between Koundé and Eriksson to take that second spot. I think Xavi really likes Eric Garcia though. So I don't know. But
I think he does
do
too.
you feel that the fullback situation has been addressed?
No, I don't. At least not at right back. I mean, we'll see what happens with Bellerin. We'll see what happens. He played last season at Betis, and he was a starter for most of those games. Um, hold on, he wanted to make that move permanent. Actually, Bellerin did. He wanted to stay at Betis, but Arsenal said no to that. Let me just check really quickly.
He only wanted to stay at Betis before he knew that Barcelona was looking at him, and then he just threw Betis to the dogs and came to Barca.
Well, Arsenal said no. It's not like I'm sure Betis would have loved to keep him there. This changed. Hold on.
But yeah, I think definitely with that back line, with those new additions onto the back line, Barca could have a pretty good defense. And like I said, I think Alonso will end up starting on left back, which could be kind of rough on Balde, even though I don't think it's that bad because Balde is so young and he's already like proven his worth in a sense. And it would probably be
Yeah.
good for him to have, someone to learn from that's more
Right.
experienced.
So here's the thing. So out of 23 games that Bellerin played at Betis last season, he started 22. So he clearly has the makings of a starting right back still. Uh, I'm not exactly sure why he fell out of favor at Arsenal in favor of Tierney. Apparently, he still had a good working relationship with the staff at Arsenal. At least that's what I've read. Um, but I think that for now, yeah, Bellerin will be the starting right back because, as I said, Xavi has no faith in anyone else to take up those spots besides his other center backs, which isn't the greatest look. And, even if they're putting decent performances in, it's still very clear that they're not right backs. So I think that on the right back, it'll certainly be Bellerin. Roberto will probably still be the sub, unfortunately. And then on the left side, I don't know how I feel about Alonso coming in. He's a great player. They gave him a 1 year contract, as well as Bellerin is on a 1 year. So we'll see how that goes long term. But Alonso's not super young either. He's only 2 years younger than Alba. So is he that much better than Alba? And should we expect that for years to come after this? I don't know. I think it adds to the depth, which is certainly helpful. And then, like you said, Balde, who's been starting, I think has made a very big case for himself. And I wouldn't mind if he stays the starter. What I will say is that I could see Alonso stepping in as the starter, and
You really
Balde
think he's
still.
going to put Balde to start against Bayern in the Champions League, though? I don't
It's a
think
good
so.
point. It's a good point. And I was about to say, Balde still has he's still very young. He's not even 20 yet, and he still has. I don't know if you noticed this week when he got booked, he still has childish tendencies. Like
It's
he's
natural.
not
It's
he's
natural.
not yeah, exactly. He's not mentally all the way there. And I think when you're a defender, that's much more important than when you're like an attacker or something, because as an attacker, you're kind of given the green light to, go for goal, be creative, do what you have to do. When you're on defense, it's more be disciplined, play your position, see how the other team is moving, see what the where the gaps need to be filled. And he got the yellow card on, and this has nothing to do with gameplay, just mentality. But he got the yellow card on Saturday because there was a second ball on the field. Sevilla's on a break down the wing, and instead of just kicking the ball out of bounds, he kicks it down the wing, almost interfering with the play. The ref didn't stop the game, but he came back afterwards and gave him a yellow card, which I think was justified because, like, why would you do that? So I don't know. We'll see. I do think that Alonso probably ends up being the starter. Balde as he'll be coming on as either a sub or a rotation player. But I don't think Balde isn't going to see the starting 11 again. I think it'll be
Oh,
a healthy.
definitely will.
I think
Definitely
he'll
will.
be a healthy mix of Alonso and
My only point is
Balde,
that
but I don't think the fullback situation is solved. No, especially at right back, because if Bellerin gets hurt, goes down, or needs rest, then we're back to having a center back as a right back. That being said, I do think that with Bellerin on the right, I think that the two starting backs will end up being Araujo and Kunde.